So this is Zoe Zombie and her balloons. She is my creepy cutie of the month for March 2016. She's available in the shop, and when you buy her in the shop, the PDF tutorial comes with it. So to begin with, let's talk about what materials I'm going to use. All of the markers I'm using in total, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 markers, a black colored pencil, and a white gel pen. You can print her out on whatever kind of paper you like to do your Copics with. For the what I'm doing today, I've used Hammermill digital cover copy paper, and that works fine for me. But you use whatever you like to use your, whatever you like to color with alcohol markers with. It's, no big deal. So there is, if you want to print this out and work with her at the same size I'm working with her, then you can just print it right off of the PDF at actual size, and it'll be the exact same size as what I have here. Now, the markers that I'm using, in the PDF file, in the ebook, you'll see a color palette. So if you're not using Copic markers, you can always just take your color chart for the kind of markers that you have. For instance, I have, like my Copic chart, and I think I have a Pro Markers chart somewhere. And what you'll do is you'll just take that chart and look at it against the color palette and pick what colors from the markers that you have most closely resemble the colors in the palette. And then you just substitute. And they don't have to be perfect matches, you just kind of want them to be close. So all the markers that I'm working with today are Copics. I'm going to be using W5, W0, which I guess probably easier to see there, V12, V04, RV21, RV13, RV25, RV29, YG21, YG25, and G20. And then I'm also using a black colored pencil. This is actually a Faber-Castell Polychromos, but any black pencil will probably work just fine. You could probably even use like a Crayola, although I would certainly recommend a little better, like a Derwent Color Soft, or Prismacolor is what I use usually for my color pencil paintings. But any black colored pencil will work. And then I'm using a white Jelly Roll 08 Sakura by Sakura pen. So it's a white gel pen. There are lots of different white gel pens you can use. If you can't find a white gel Sakura, there's also other brands. Like I have two others here, I think. This is the Uniball Signo. And then I have another, I think it's a Signo as well. Yeah, this is the Uniball Signo UM153. And I apologize for the noise. It is warmer than expected today. It is definitely becoming spring here in the northern hemisphere, and I do like it, but it means I have windows open, so you're going to hear the cars and stuff outside, and I'm sorry about that. Hopefully you can still hear me above them. Alright, So we've got this printed out, and I've got decent light. I've got all my markers, my pencil, and my white gel pen together. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is decide where the light source is going to come from, and in this tutorial I've basically put it up in the upper left hand corner. So if you want to, just to keep a reminder, you can take a pencil that you can erase and just draw a little sun here, and that'll remind you that this is where your light source is. Okay, now next what we'll do is start with her skin, because the zombie skin is something you don't see, or I haven't seen covered a whole lot. So first thing we're going to do is take YG21 and add some shadows. We're going to make sure we get under her hairline there. You don't have to worry about being neat or being very thin. We're going to have a lot of YG21 in the skin tone. Let me pull it in some. There'll be lots of YG21 in her skin. So you can keep this thick, that's fine. You don't have to be real neat about it or anything. And we're going to make sure that we bring some in under her cheekbones, like this. Don't worry if it seems hard, we'll blend it out later. The reason we're putting the shadows under like this is because she's a zombie, and instead of blush, she'll have hollow, gaunt kind of cheeks. Okay, and then we're going to take this and go around her eyes, because we're going to make these eyes really pop out later. Do little dots on her nose, go across her mouth, under the sleeve and beside the dress, under her fingers and at the bottom of her hand, under the dress. And because our light source is coming from here, we're going to do the right side of the leg, the right side of this leg, and then we're also going to do the left side of this leg because it's hidden behind this. It doesn't matter too much with the legs because her dress would probably shadow everything anyway, but you know, just for whatever's sake. Next thing we're going to do is take V12 and go down, and we're going to be a little thinner. We're going to pay closer attention to how thin this line is, because we really just want it in the deepest, darkest part of the shadow. Just like this. And so we're going to go under her hairline. We're going to go under her sleeve and next to her dress, under her fingers, under her dress here, down her leg. Same thing here, except both sides of her leg. And then we're going to pull a little bit under her eyes, but just a little bit. We're not going to do around the whole eye. There we go. Now we're going to go ahead and use that YG21 again just to blend out that purple a little bit. And maybe pull some more shadow down here along her chin. And we don't want to blend out the purple too much, just a little bit so the edge isn't so hard on it. So something like this. And you can do it here and on the legs as well. And of course over here on this hand. Alright, next we're going to pull out G20. And we're going to take this G20 over all of her skin. But we're going to start by blending in this YG21 a little bit. Now the G20 might seem really dark to you at first and you're going to be like, oh, this doesn't look right. Well, don't worry, once it dries it's going to look perfect. But make sure you're going over just the edge of that YG21 to get it good and blended. And it's okay if you go over all of the YG21. It's not a big deal. In fact, I will just to show you. But try not to get on the purple with this because we don't want to blend the purple out too much. There we go. I'm actually going to pull out the, well, I'll use the bullet nib down here. And as you can see, I'm not real bent on being precise or anything like that. I kind of just, all this stuff is really just the foundation. There'll be more layers built on it, so you don't have to stress so much about this. And if you're stressing about coloring, then you're, you know, not coloring for the right reasons. You should be having fun. Okay, so now we're going to take the V04 and we're going to bring some more shadows in. And again, we're just going to stay really close to the hairline as best as we can. If you have a brush nib, it's really the best to use for this because it has a, you know, the finer point on the end of it. But you can do this with a bullet nib too. Your lines just might be a little bolder, and that's okay. It's really not, you know, a huge deal. So just pull it through, and then we're gonna do, we did under her hairline, we're gonna go under her eyes to create that sort of gaunt look. And don't worry if you go into the eye a little bit. Like I said, this is all going to be blended. There's going to be more layers and it won't matter in the end. Okay, now let's take this under her nostrils to get a little more gauntness down there. And we're going to go under the sleeve of her dress, along the side next to her dress, on her hand there, under her fingers, and across the bottom. Then we'll go under the skirt and down the right side of her, well, it's left to us, leg. We'll go under her skirt and down the left and right side on her right leg. Okay, and now we're going to pull out YG25. And YG25 is going to create a bit more shadow. And we're going to use it to blend the V4 just a little bit. We don't want to blend this out too much. So we're just going to pull that down a little bit. And this YG25 will look really dark at first, but don't worry. Not only does it lighten as it dries, as you can probably see by now your G20 has, but we're also going to blend it with YG25 in a minute, and that will soften it up as well. So we're just going just along the edge. We're not going over the, completely over the V04, just a little bit. And we'll do some on the nose there, and then across her lips like this. Don't worry about perfect. I know I say it a lot, but I really do mean it. We're going to go just wherever you shaded the V4, you're just going to go right along with that YG25. Just going over the very edge of the V4. There we go. And then we're also going to pull some of this YG25 into those hollows in her cheeks there. Just like that. And yeah, it's probably looking really scary right now and not in the creepy cute way. But don't worry, this is going to be fine. We're also going to take this and go over her eyes. We're just going to go around the whole thing to create some more definition. There we go. All right, and now let's bring out that YG25. I mean the YG21, and blend this just the YG25. We're going to take the YG21 to blend the YG25 a bit. When I'm blending, I like to do little circular strokes, kind of like this. If I'm going in a, like here, the line's pretty straight, so I'm just going to do a straight line because I will be going over all this again with G20 to blend it all out a little better. So just keep blending that YG25 with your YG21. And you might have to go over it a couple times to get it good and soft. You don't want it too soft. You don't want to lose the color altogether, which can happen. But you do want a smooth transition. Okay, and make sure like on the lines next to her nostrils, you want to go up one side and up the other as well. Because a lot of mistakes that people make with noses is you get these hard, dark lines, and that's just not how a nose looks. Noses generally are, you know, you get a subtle change in the lights and darks, not so much a, you know, just a dark line. Now take your YG25 and just color. You're really just going to color over everything but the V4 in your legs and hands. Okay. Now we are going to pull out that G20 again. And we're just going to go over everything to make sure everything but the V04. You don't want to go over your purple shadows because we're trying to keep that purple. We don't want to dull it down anymore. Start in your lightest part. I'm using my chisel nib because it's quicker, and I'm trying to make this video shorter than you know, an hour or so. And just go over everything. Don't freak out. It's probably looking dark, but like we saw earlier, this G20 will lighten up and look really cool. Okay, so now that we've done all of this, we're going to pull out our white gel pen. Now, if you don't have a white gel pen, you could use a very small tip paintbrush and some gouache or some white acrylic paint. But I'm just going to use the white gel pen. And we're just going to go over and add a little highlight to the top of her cheekbones. And this is just to make them more pronounced. Alternatively, you could just try to avoid a little white area, but I think I like the white gel pen effect better. It's not as stark as the white paper. You might want to, that's a little trick you can do is, this white gel pens are kind of like paint pens, and that you can smear and smudge them a little bit. And I do like to do that sometimes just so they blend in a bit. You don't have to, it's just like a thing I like to do. And so now she's got high cheekbones, lots of deep dark shadows, and she's looking very zombie-like. So let's move on to her dress and her barrettes and her shoes. Now we are going to do a little bit of drawing, and I know people get a little freaked out, but don't, because we're going to draw a little skull and crossbones down here, just like this right here. And you are totally capable, and you are going to kick its butt, so don't freak out or anything. What we're going to do is take V12 and we're going to draw a circle. Okay? We're going to put a line through the middle of the circle. So we got 2 eye sockets for the thing. Let's draw. Now you're just going to draw like a square or a rectangle here. That's it. You got a circle and a square. How hard is that, right? Now we're going to put 4 lines coming off of the skull like this. And you can make your lines a little thicker or a little thinner. It's totally up to you. This isn't, you know, supposed to be lifelike or anything. And then at the end of each of these lines, add 2 little dots. We don't really have to worry about it over here since it's going off the dress. Is that easy or what? I think I'm going to make this a little, there we go. How easy was that, right? Nothing to be afraid of. So now what we're going to do is take W5 and color in the eyes. The eye sockets, I guess. Add a little nose, just a little dot there, and very lightly some little teeth indentations. Easy peasy, right? So now let's take our V12. Oops, I got the V4. Let's get the V12 and color in the collar of her dress. And you're just laying, you know, a single layer down, no biggie. We're going to color her socks, V12. Oops, there we go. And the little window in her shoes. And it's okay if you get it out of the lines like I just did, no big deal. And then we're going to do her barrettes. And we're going to give her some stripes on her sleeve just to add a little more detail. And that's, you know, just add some lines. Not hard. You got it. Don't worry about if they're not perfectly apart or whatever. You'll get better at that later. Alright. Next thing we're going to do is take W5 and outline our little skull so we don't color over him as we're coloring in the dress. So just with a light touch, you want to be very light-handed with this, go around your skull. Just like this. See how I'm taking my time, don't rush it. And I'm just going along the edges, and it's okay if you go over it a little bit, but it's better to err on the side of away from the skull, because you can always fill it in with purple later, and the purple won't affect the W5 so much. So there's that. And now we're just going to lay a wash of W5 in. We're going to leave the edge of the dress open because we're going to add a second or third layer of W5 later to make that a reflective surface. But if you don't want to go, you know, if you don't want to do that or don't like to do that or whatever, you can just color the whole thing in. It's no big deal. I'm also going to add, a white line there, and then I'm going to do a white line right here. And pull all of this in. Now I am running out of W5, as you can see, so you might not need to do a second coat, but I excuse me. Here we go. So I'm going to go over a second time because I am running out of my W5. I need to order some more. But I use these warm grays. I use a bunch. So I'm kind of surprised they've lasted me this long, really. Alright, and then we're going to do the same with the Mary Janes. We're going to do a little line right there. We'll just draw in a highlight because we want the Mary Janes to look like they're, you know, shiny patent leather. So let's leave the edges of the shoe white and the little circles, you know, well, they're kind of more like ovals or something, of the big highlights there. And then we're going to keep this side pretty, on this shoe against here, a little dark because that shoe is covered by the other one. But we'll keep the sides down. It probably looks a little crazy right now, but it's all crap. Sorry about that. So there we go. Now our shoes are colored in. As you can see, we left a white space around the shoe and a big highlight there. I'm sorry that wasn't in camera. I'm just getting used to this. So the next thing we are going to do is use V04 to add some shadow to the purple areas of her attire. So take your V04 and we're just going to do a line, there we go, a line along the bottom of her barrette, just like that. We're going to do shadow right under her chin on the collar. We're going to sort of trace inside the skull like this. It's not going to look neat. You have to kind of think of this like paint where it's really messy until you get to the details. We're going to go to the right side and behind the ruffles on the socks. And then we're going to put a few little lines down through the ruffles just to make them look more ruffly. And then for each, we definitely want to fill in the whole window on the Mary Janes there. You see down here, because they're covering that for sure. And then just on your purple strip, add a little area of shadow against the dress. And then down here on the bottom. Alrighty, and the next thing we are going to do is pull out that black colored pencil. Dun, da, da, da. Now you want to make sure that your point is very sharp, because you don't want, you want to be able to get into all the little nooks and crannies. And what we're going to do is use the pencil to shade the dress. So we're going to start under the collar and we're just going to do some very small circular motions, and we're going to use light pressure. Just like this. Go under the collar on both sides. Let's bring a little shadow down here. Then we're going to go against the reflective light on the sides. Like this, and across the bottom. And then let's make sure that we go around the skull. This will give it more definition. And color in those eyes, the nose, and those teeth. Okay, and then we're going to go down and work on those shoes. And we're just going to go across the bottom. Like so. And along the right side. Under the socks. Along here. Okay, now we're going to go over here again, and we're just going to use a little firmer pressure to get the pencil down a little darker. I'm going to go right here just to add some more detail. And then with some lighter pressure, let's go pull it up a little more. So we can create this kind of round shadow on the dress. So the shadow looks, you know, so it goes around. Alrighty. The next thing we are going to do is lightly shade some other areas that aren't black. So with a very, very, very light touch, we're just going to go down the side of the dress here over the sleeve. Now remember, you want to keep your hand very light, very little pressure. We don't really want to see too much of the black. We just want to kind of see the shadow. We're going to do the same thing over on this side. And then we're going to take it and we're going to go over the collar, like this. And we're going to go a little bit onto the skull. You know, just if you feel like it needs it. You might even want to do something like that to separate the skull. You don't have to. I don't think I did in my other one, but it's an idea. We'll go over just the very bottom of her barrettes. And then in the socks, we're just going to do a tiny, tiny bit right along the edge here and then down between the ruffles. And that's it for the attire, I believe. Oh no, let's do one more thing. Now that the W5 has had time to dry, we're going to go over it one more time, and this time we're going to color over the white areas on the dress as well. And this will keep the lighter area for a reflective light without it being so harsh, because you know, when you have like the only time you should have white highlights, well, I mean, I don't want to say should, because you know, there's really no should in artsy stuff. But when I see big white highlights, I tend to think of leather or some kind of shiny material, and I didn't want her dress to be shiny. I wanted it to be kind of you know, kind of velvety maybe. Certainly with this marker running out of ink, it looks velvety. But anyway, so yeah, there's that. And then down here on her shoes, you just want to bring it out a little bit. You don't really want to go over these too much, because they are, you know, we want them to be kind of patent leathery shoes. So we definitely want to keep that big highlight in the center, but we will tone down that right edge and probably all of the edges on that other one. All right, and now you are definitely finished the attire. So, oops, well, let's add a little sparkle to those barrettes first. We'll take the white gel pen and just add some little dots. There we go. All right, now let's move on to her hair. I wasn't sure. It took me a minute to figure out what color I wanted to do her hair, but I eventually settled on a kind of magenta color, because it pulls, magenta has purple and it's sort of a purple red mixed together. And so it pulls the purple out of her dress, and then red is complementary to green, so it's a really good, it will look good with these colors. So the first thing we're going to do, and I'm using the flick method for this. I'm not really good at the flick method, so I'm not going to try to teach anybody how to do it. It works best with a brush tip, which I don't have on some of these red violets, but you can Google it or look it up on YouTube, and I'm sure you'll find lots of stuff. I personally learned the flick method from kitandclouder.com, and I would certainly recommend that website, because she at least has loads of coloring tutorials and stuff for new colors and whatnot. So let's start with RV21, and we're just gonna start at the bottom and flick upwards, and we're going to flick a long ways upward, because this RV21 is the lightest color we're going to have in this hair once it's all said and done. So I'm pulling up from the bottom, down from the barrette, up from the barrette, We're just going to kind of pull that around that way. And then out from the center part. Sort of like that. And then we'll do it again on the other side. If you don't like to flick, you can do whatever technique you like. Just do it with the colors here if you want it to look similar. Okay, and now we're going to use RV13 to add some darker colors in the center here. It's going to cover a lot of the RV21. You just want to make sure you have some RV21 poking out towards the highlight there. It's not a biggie. Alright, and now we're going to use RV25 to add some more shadows in the hair. And again, we're just flicking up from the bottom, making sure to leave some of that RV13 at the top and the RV21 showing. And down from the barrette, up from the barrette, and over this way a little, and out from the part. Now at this point I'm feeling like I don't like so much light, and I'm probably going to pull this RV21 completely around. So let's do this, pull it down here. And then we're just going to take the RV21 basically over everything. Just like this. Again, I'm not worrying about being neat or being perfect. Perfect makes art stuff boring, for me anyway. So I just don't go there. So we did RV21 all over everything. And now we're going to take the RV, we're going to take the RV13 and pull some more streaks out. Just like this, we're pulling them up a little further this time, but we don't want to cover that RV21 completely. So we're just pulling it up a little further. There we go. See, it's just not that hard, is it? You just pull it up. I'm not even flicking really. I'm just kind of pulling it out, and it's fine and it'll work. I really hate flicking with bullet nibs, and if my carpal tunnel syndrome is acting up, I don't flick at all. So yeah, flicking's great, but you don't always have to do it, so don't freak out if you're not very good at it. Now we're going to take RV29 and just do the very little short strokes down at the bottom. And don't worry if you're getting out of the lines like me. We're going to do some outlining later to fix that, or you can just use your colorless blender to push it back into the hair area. But I like to outline, so that is what I will do. Pulling the strokes down from the barrettes, like that, and then some little short strokes from the center part. Okay, and now I want to have a little more darkness in her hair, so I'm going to bring that RV25 again. And pull that up some more. If you like, at any point that you're doing the hair and you like it, feel free to stop. I'm just showing you, you know, what I like. I'm doing it the way I like it, and hopefully you can learn something from it and then implement that with changes made to suit your particular taste or preference or whatever. So again, we're just pulling this out. I think I'm going to pull some more RV21 through. This might not be exactly as it goes in the book, but the end result is the same. Let's pull that all, make sure all the white areas are covered with the RV21. And there we go. Now she has some cute textured hair. I want to add, because I used black colored pencil in the sleeves and stuff, I will end up using it as an overall shadow for everything. So since we're in here and on her hair, let's take that sharp black colored pencil and just add a few very light-handed flicks down towards the bottom of her hair, under her barrettes, over her barrettes, where the barrettes pinch the hair, and then coming out of the center part. The most important part here, of course, is making sure that the pencil is sharp. If you do a dull tip, you will end up having big, thick, bold lines, and it will just mess everything up. So the next thing we are going to do is work on her balloons. So let's start by taking V12 and coloring the skull balloon, like so. And you can color the whole skull balloon because we're going to bring V4 in later to really be the main color of the balloon. This V12 will be more of a highlight later. And don't worry if you're going out of the lines, because we're going to outline or color over or blend or some way or another. It'll all work out in the end. That's what's pretty awesome about coloring, is that it doesn't always have to be, oh my gosh, is this perfect? No, and it shouldn't be, so don't worry about it. Now take your W5, which is hopefully a little juicier than mine, and color in the balloon around the heart. Oh man, mine is definitely about gone. So we may end up with a W3 here. Let me see. Oh yeah. Okay, so I'm going to pull W3 out and go from there. Yeah, it's definitely lighter than my W5, but it'll have to do. Thinking if I use the W9, you're not going to see the color pencil shading. But anyway, so you want to make sure that you leave a white perimeter on your balloon. Really, the main point is up here. I'm going to bring W9 out because that's just too light. Alright, so just make sure that you have an even wash of color on your balloon, but you want to leave some white area out. Like so. There we go. All right. Now we're going to use, well, I'm going to use W3, but you're going to use W5 to color in your skull. Oh my goodness, I didn't know my W3 was going up too. I am not kidding when I say I use these so much. I'm not even sure how I didn't know. I'm thinking maybe I'm not the only one in the house been using these W3s. But anyway, so color your skull, and it doesn't have to be perfectly colored, just like this isn't, because we're going to go over it later a second time, and we're going to use the black pencil. Now take RB13 and color in your heart. Again, don't worry about it being perfect. It doesn't need to be perfect. Okay. Next thing we will do is use RV25 to add some shading to the heart. You can remember we've got our light source over here, so it's coming down this way. So we want our shadows to be on this side of the tear for the most part. Add some over here. There, maybe a little on the bottom. Okay, and then we're going to use RV29 to add a little more shadow. Just like this. And then we're going to take that RV13 again and blend it all out. Make sure you get those lines blended out as smooth as you can. They don't have to be perfect. All right, and then well, the first thing we would do is take the W5 and go over the skull again. I think I got enough ink in here to do that, but I could be wrong. So anyway, just go over that with your W5 again. Make sure to leave some, you see how I have the light areas around the edges? That's so once everything dries, you'll still have sort of a, you know, some depth there. Yeah, let's actually use the W0 to blend that, because my markers are a mess. There we go. I love W0. I use it a lot, but I only recently got it a couple weeks ago. But it is great for blending where you want to dull the colors down a little bit. Okay, so now we're going to take the black colored pencil. You actually will take W5 and go over your heart again just to make sure the wash is smooth. If your wash is already smooth, you don't have to worry about that. Obviously, I can't because my balloon's too dark. But now we're going to take V04. Sorry about that. And we're going to add shade to the, what we're going to do is add the basic color to the skull balloon. Be careful going around the skull so you don't get it in the, in the skull, and leave that light color around the perimeter of your balloon and up towards the area here. We want to leave that light. We're going to leave this area light so that way the that can serve like a reflection since our light source is coming from over that way. Just color everything in. There we go. Color in those eye sockets. Or, you could do something else with them if you want to make them creepier, make them red or something. Use that RV25 in there. But I'm just going to do purple. Bring it down in here and just color it around. Kind of do the lines like we do on the ruffles. Now take V12 and just blend that out. We're going to blend this all out with the V12. sure it's blended. You don't want that to be too harsh. Alright, there we go. So that's done. Now we would take the W5 and go around the edge of the balloon. Maybe, oh, I know what I could probably do. Hold on. I'm going to see if I can't wet this W5 with some alcohol. And basically you want to go around the edge of the balloon with your W5 now, so that way it can have that lighter reflective surface. It's not working, it doesn't look right on this because I used that W9, which I probably shouldn't have, but for you it should look pretty good. It should look more like this. So just along the edges there, how it's lighter than the rest. Now let's pull out the black colored pencil, and you're just gonna, and I'm gonna use her for this because, yeah, you're just gonna take it and do little circular motions along the balloon here to add some shading. And you'll probably want to do 3 or 4 layers of this to get it good and dark. And that will be your shading. Just like that. And make sure you don't go over your light, you know, on either of these sides. You just kind of want to go down through here and spread it out a bit. And then go through your balloon stuff here. And then same thing over here. You want to take your black pencil and with a really light touch, and it's especially important to use a light touch when you're using black on a color other than like gray or black, or you know, something that isn't dark, because you don't want it to look like you've just put black over that color. You want it to, you want that color to show through, so that way the black and that color kind of merge in your viewer's vision and become a darker version of that color rather than black and purple. So just with a really light touch and circular motion, pull those, pull that black pencil up through, and we're gonna do, you know, a little kind of this way, a horseshoe shape, and we're gonna pull it through right about to the eye sockets, and we're gonna go over the skull, because we want the skull to be, we want it to have dimension, but we want it to be flat really against the balloon. So the shading it with the balloon will kind of help that. Now we got one layer down. Let's go over with a slightly harder pressure and do another layer. And we're not going to go all the way up to the eye socket. We're just going to go around to the jaw area. There we go, just like that, and pull it up through here. And then finally one more layer just down here near the where this sits behind the other balloon, and we want a little bit darker of a cast shadow, and you might want to push a little more firmly for this one because it's a more dense shadow. Okay, and then you'll just do a little bit down here, not too much, and then pull some lines through on the ribbon, you know, well, where the balloon is all scrunched up from being knotted. So now we are going to add some highlights. And we're just going to pull out the white gel pen for that. Do a little circle, oval type thing. It doesn't, you know, it does not have to be perfect. Add another little circle there. And then a little smaller one here because it's not as close to the light source as the purple balloon. So just a little small highlight on the black balloon, or a smaller highlight I should say, and a bigger one on the purple balloon. All right, and that is the balloons. Now let's move on to her eyes. What we're going to do with her eyes is we're going to make them pop out. And the way we are going to do that, whoops, forgot alcohol in there, is we're going to start with V12. And we're going to just do, just along with little circular motions, we're going to do along the bottom here. Just like that. And this kind of gives it, you know, this kind of makes this pop out. The center of the eyes pop out a bit. And now we're going to take W0 to blend it. And we're going to blend the purple and make sure it's good and blended out. We don't want it to be too, we don't want it to stand out too much. And then we're going to pull this all around the eye, just like that. So blend the purple, make sure it's good and blended. And then pull it all around the eye. And then just go over the whole eye. Okay, and now we are going to use YG21 to bring some reflection from that flesh of hers into the whites of her eyes, since they're popping out over her cheekbones. So take your YG21 and just lightly, you know, add a little bit down there. It doesn't really have to be light, I guess, but just take it over where you had your purple and into the W0 in the middle there. Kind of like that. Alright, and now we're going to take white gel pen and we are going to add highlight up here towards the light source. Just a smaller one, not too big. Like this. And then we're going to come down and do some reflective light along here. And you want to get this as close to the line, the black line of her eyes as possible. And you just kind of want to do it from the upper right corner about midway through the bottom. And that should cover it. And don't worry if you go out of the lines like I did, because I like to finish my images off with some black color pencil outline, which is what we will do in a minute. Right now I want to show you some alternatives that you can do with her eyes. One alternative is to just add some little dots. And this is, you know, I call these, you know, dot pupils. So you just draw in a little black dot. And you can make it as big or small as you want to. But maybe you want to give her like a colored iris or something like that. Well, that's easy peasy too. You can just use your little dots to start, right? And then draw a circle around it. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but use a light hand, okay? Use a light hand to get the circle you want. And then very carefully go over it until it's as dark as you want it. You don't really need it. This is a zombie. Zombies tend to have those kind of dead light colored eyes, so you know, you might not, you really don't want to make it too dark anyway. And then if you want to color, you could color these irises in any kind of, you know, color. I think a light color is more zombie-like. I don't think I want to do RV21. So I'm just going to add that right there. Okay, and now she's got eyes. So, and then if you want to add a little highlight to her eyes, you can do that. Just remember the light source. And there you go. Now all we have left is the final touch. And this is totally optional, but I like it. You want to make sure your pencil is sharp. And then just go around all the prominent stuff on her. Now, because she is a pretty simple little image, she doesn't have a whole lot of prominent areas. But her eyes are definitely one of them. And you want to do probably her hair. And while you're doing this, if you want to, you can even add a little light black shadowing to her skin, just to make that purple even darker. If you want to, it's totally optional. There we go. Make sure you get this part, because that's certainly going to be a darker spot. The black pencil is great for also going over some mistakes you've made. Like, I can come down here and go over this little bit that I had over. And now it's less noticeable. But I'm probably going to speed through this because you really don't, I don't think you really need a tutorial for tracing an outline, right? You just use your pencil or your multi-liner or your micron pen or something like that and go over the edges. I like to use the pencil because I can erase if I mess up. And I would be pretty upset if I colored all this whole image and then went over it with a pen that I can't erase and mess something up really bad. So I like to use the pencil. And then of course when you're done your coloring, to make your marker illustration last the longest, you probably want to use a, well, I always use a Workable Fixative. They have them by Krylon, and there's just plenty. Just look for a Workable Fixative. You can buy anywhere, Walmart, Michael's, Hobby Lobby. Anywhere sells art supplies, you'll find Workable Fixative. As you can see down here on her shoes, I'm not going to go over this stuff. I'm just going over the perimeter of her shoes and her legs, and then down there. I'm not going to go over the skull again. I am going to go over this skull and the heart and the balloons just to give them a little more definition. I don't know if I should even bother on this particular heart, but on the other heart I did. And let's go over her mouth. Just the line of her mouth, not the lines that are kind of sewing her mouth shut. And we'll go over her nose a little bit. And there we go. She is finished. Ta-da! And don't forget to put your initials or something to show that you did some work. And make sure to date it, because then you can look back at it later and say, oh, I remember when I did this, and oh, I like this part, but I didn't like that part, and this is how I changed, and wow, you know, I should maybe try this again. Blah, blah, blah. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you had fun, and I look forward to seeing what you make. I hope that you share it in the Fairy Ink group on Facebook. And yeah, so make sure you like it and comment below and let me know what you think and if you want to see more videos like this. So take care. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.